Did they get a hard on when you were hugging them or something like that? Did you like ever have that?
Yeah, that's so normal.
Hello and welcome. Today I have with me Keeley Shoup. Keeley is the co-owner of Cuddlist, the training institute for cuddle therapy, a certified Wheel of Consent facilitator. She is also the director of Cuddle X Pro, the first ever professional cuddlers convention. Keeley has been a fierce advocate reaching international audiences as she works to destigmatize mental health, promote education on boundaries and consent, and increase access to the groundbreaking therapeutic modality of cuddle therapy. Thank you for being here, Keeley. So nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
So, cuddling, who knew this was a thing?
I know it's wild, right? It's just not something you run across, and I run across it every day in my life, but I think the average person maybe doesn't.
So tell us about it. What is it? How did you get into it? Where did it come from as a modality, a therapeutic modality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very much a natural evolution of a lot of other things. Just the name of it, calling it cuddle therapy, it can be called a lot of different things. But calling it cuddle therapy really started a little over 10 years ago. The late 2000s was the first time it was ever even referenced. And I discovered it about 10 years ago in 2015. That's when I started my private practice. So actually, I discovered it several years before that. But I was learning about it. It's a therapeutic modality that gives people access to platonic touch through boundaries and consent education. That's vital. That's essential and groundwork, right? So that we can access platonic touch safely. And it's for all kinds of things. It's for the purpose of promoting well-being and your mental and emotional health. I can get real sciencey with you if you want me to, but that's what.
Give us a quick synopsis of the science behind it.
Absolutely. So when we touch, we activate our C-type nerve cells, and that produces oxytocin as well as many other somatic reactions in the body. So oxytocin is linked to increased immune system, lowered blood pressure. The oxytocin will activate the parts of the brain that make you feel belonging, that make you feel included and in what they call in group. So like you belong, right? And all of those physiological benefits coupled with really excellent like communication skill building and talking about boundaries and consent, that combination is really potent. And it helps people unlock and heal a lot of different things in their life, whether it's grief or loss, whether it's navigating like relationships, trying to build different kinds of relationship skills, whether it's, I've got some folks who are very isolated, navigating symptoms of depression or anxiety. All these things are really great use cases for cuddle therapy.
I'm assuming it's all in person.
You would assume that, right?
Right.
I totally get why you would assume that, but half of my practice is virtual because I know super asters. How can you cuddle through a computer? This doesn't make any sense. But what we do is we do a lot of things that we simulate touch and we simulate cuddling, but we also do different embodiment exercises and activity. Cuddling can be a little bit of a misnomer because it's not required. It is about connection. It's about authentic connection. It's about regulating your nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system and getting your body really great and calm and blissful. That feeling, that blissful feeling that comes when you cuddle, we can create that in other ways through different kinds of meditations, different kinds of exercises and activities. And we had to develop and learn that through COVID. So
This is true. This is true. I'm seeing all the teddy bears behind you, so I suspect that they come into play, pardon the pun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cuddling is very intimate. Particularly when you're in an in-person session with somebody, how does it not become sexual?
Yeah, and I love this question so much because what it also does is it points to a really inherent and strong assumption in our culture, right? When adults are cuddling, it is almost always a precursor to sex.
Yeah.
And that's so common. But I will also say that's a pretty American experience. There are other cultures that have less touch than Americans. That's true. But there's other cultures that have more access to platonic touch between adults. That's just common and comfortable. And you go to Italy and people are kissing your cheek and holding your hand and like it's just we're in a more isolated environment. Yes, cuddling is really intimate. It can be really intimate, but one of the really powerful things that we do in session is notice what platonic emotional intimacy is. For some people, intimacy is just a big umbrella.
Yeah.
Intimacy is just intimacy, and that just always means the all of what intimacy encompasses. However, we know there's differences between sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, romantic intimacy. We can have intimacy with a best friend who's sitting there while we are crying and sobbing and snot, and that's intimate. Right? And they're getting us through the hardest moments of our life. That's absolutely emotionally intimate when there's no sex there. So we have to remember that there's all different kinds of intimacy. And so when we get an opportunity where in this space it's not taboo, where it's not taboo to find out, explore, where's that line? What does it feel like? Where is it for me? That's what my job is, to hold you through that discovery process, through that experience.
And interestingly, one of the things that I preach is the John Gottman's 20-second hug or 6-second kiss, because that is a way to reconnect, especially for couples who haven't touched each other in a really long time. And they're like, oh my God, the thought of sex with this person is just so not interesting, but you can handle a hug, right? But yeah, no, I love that. Assuming we're doing the cuddling in person, because I didn't even think about asking you on the virtual thing until I saw you in there with all the teddy bears. Did you ever have sexual feelings for someone that you were cuddling with professionally?
I have been doing this since 2015 professionally. So that's like 10 years, right? Yeah, one or two, a couple times. Like maybe a handful in 10 years.
But did they get a hard on when you were hugging them or something like that? Did you ever have that?
Yeah, that's so normal. Yeah, so when my clients that have penises cuddle, their body almost Pavlovian, right? That Pavlovian response, just their body identifies, we're doing this activity. This activity almost always means that this next thing will happen, sex will happen. Their body is just responding in the way it's conditioned to respond. They're not choosing to do that. It's pretty involuntary. And so that's fine. Your body's working. Your body's working how it's supposed to work. That's great. What we do is we are very attentive to our actions and our intentions, right? And so as long as we are maintaining with beautiful integrity our intentions, our boundaries, and our agreements, what your body is doing is totally normal. It's fine. And it just takes some readjustment, because here's the thing. If you really aren't intending to go towards sex, your body, after a few minutes, technically after a few deep breaths, because you're tapping into your parasympathetic nervous system, to get sciencey again, and you're reminding your limbic system to come online, as opposed to the endocrine system that's, oh, go, your limbic system is going to calm you down. So you're just reminding those systems in your body, nope, we're not doing that thing, we're doing this thing. And then it dissipates in a few minutes. It's really not a big deal. Yeah.
Interesting. So why would somebody come to a cuddle therapist over other kinds of therapy or other somatic practices?
Well, some of the reasons that are really important is our trauma lives in the body. We store our emotions in our body, not in our brains. And in order to release, to access, to process a lot of those bigger emotions, our body has to come along for the ride. We have to get it involved. We have to make it land. People talk about it landing or grounding, right? Those words come up a lot. They're talking about their somatic systems. If you ever want to go on an interesting YouTube deep dive, Google polyvagal theory. That can be a little sciencey deep dive, right? You say, yeah, you're not like, yeah, I've heard of that, absolutely. And so all of those, if you were only approaching your mental health, your well-being from the neck up, there's a pretty big gap in actually implementing those things in your life. I think people can resonate with the idea of going to therapy for a while and then just feeling a little stagnant, feeling like, okay, I'm talking every week.
Right.
Not like none is changing in my life. It's because knowing what a boundary is different than being face to face with someone, your heart rate pounding, your face flushing, your muscles tensing as you are trying to say, no, I won't do that. That's a different experience than sitting calmly in a therapy session knowing that you can say no.
So when does a therapist bring you in then?
So it depends on the work. It depends on the client. So sometimes I'm bringing the therapist in. Sometimes if my client is seeing me for a while and I'm like, listen, I can work on these things with you, but some of this other stuff that you're navigating is out of my scope of practice and really is better suited for a talk therapist. So there's some, like, I don't diagnose mental illness. I don't treat mental illness, right? I'm working on bringing your body in line with your mental and emotional well-being. Or somatically focused in my practice, right? And so there's things that are out of my scope of practice. So when a person needs different kinds of comfort, then we might bring, because sometimes you just cannot substitute a hug, right? I have clients who are a really great example is like grief and loss. A therapist can talk to you a lot about processing like a parent passing and what the complicated things that can mean for someone, right? They can talk about, oh, I wish I had this relationship with my parent and now I never will. There's so much that comes with that loss or grief, right? But it's different than me holding someone while they sob and remember their mom holding them. That's a different experience, and there's different healing that happens there. So sometimes we just need the body. And I know we talk a lot about sex, right? And we talk a lot about couples and how do we apply these things to couples. I work with couples a lot and we work on what's the language around touch, because touch can often be really taboo. And we're also not like often talking about it or talking about our desires in clear ways. No one gave you a roadmap to doing that, right? And so I work a lot with, okay, let's go down way to the basics. We do everything in my session in a platonic container, the exercises or whatnot. And then I say, okay, go take this home and add the spicy stuff later. Add the spicy stuff at home, and then you can report back and tell me how these skills translated and how it went.
So does one partner ever come without the other? Do you ever see one of couples, or people always come as a couple?
For me and my practice so far, I'll see an individual, but it tends to work better. It just tends to work better if I'm seeing the couple as a unit, if we're working on things together. I had one couple session that I'd been working with one of the clients for a very long time, and then they brought their best friend of 30 years in because they were a long distance friendship, and they wanted to find ways to deepen their friendship, but they were having trouble with the distance and they were having trouble with some other things. And so that was an instance where it was a little bit of a different container. We're working on a little bit different things. And so that was really fine for me to continue working with the one and then have those little experiences for the couple sessions. But when it's a romantic or a life partner couple, that it's a little bit better for me to be seeing them as a unit.
What about like a throuple, a couple, like a polyamorous or whatever, or a cuddling 3-way, 4-way, 5-way?
All of the skills absolutely translatable to however many people, because like, again, we're working on a lot of communication skills. We're working on boundary setting. That's applicable and is more applicable in polyamorous or multiple settings because there's more variables. You gotta get real clear, real specific with it. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that ever happened in a session that you can talk about, obviously anonymously?
Craziest thing. I'm so desensitized to what crazy might be.
This is true, right?
Here's one. Here's one of the most physically, like, instant gratification rewarding things that has ever happened in a session with someone's body. So we were working on, this person was a caregiver in a medical profession and also a caregiver for other people in their life. And they were such a giver just in general as a person, a little bit of people pleasing stuff. And so a lot of the stuff that we were working on was being assertive or having a different kind of confidence or really setting strong boundaries. We were working on some of that stuff, right? As well as like with touch, right? No, I don't want to touch there. I do want to touch there, blah, blah, blah. They had come in and we always do a check-in about our bodies at the very beginning. How are you feeling? Any soreness, anything? And they're like, okay, we're going to be really gentle around my tummy because I've had some gastrointestinal distress and stuff. It's just not great. We're just going to be really gentle. I was like, great, awesome. We'll be super gentle today. What we ended up working on that day was feeling permission to feel angry. they were having a lot of people dump on them in their life they felt taken advantage of, they felt bullied, but they didn't feel like they were allowed to feel angry about any of that. They just thought they had to take it, and if they weren't, and so we ended up having like a pillow fight where we met, hit the pillow on the mat I have and get this aggression out and feel it in your body and how does it move through and yada yada. And then she really started wailing on the pillow on the mat and the tears came. It was really beautiful. And then I held her and it was such a cathartic moment. And it was like, oh, I'm allowed to do this. It's really beautiful. At the end of that moment, as we wrapped up, I need to go. Ran to the restroom, clear the gastrointestinal issues, and then they didn't come back. She'd been going to the doctor for weeks trying to figure out what was going on, but it was the emotional stopped up. Like that's crazy because we had to navigate all that. But it was instant. It was just immediate. Like she had the emotional release, she got that thing, and then the rest released.
If this sparks something for you and you want the extended cut of the episode, you can listen to the full interview wherever you get your podcasts. Just search TabooToTruth or hit the link in the description.